Previously, we have been comparing two franchises that have to do with teenagers with attitude and martial arts, Cobra Kai and the Power Rangers. The last episode we took a look between Jason Lee Scott, the Red Ranger, and Miguel Diaz, and we determined that while Miguel may have had some speed on Jason, Jason overall was smarter, more experienced, and stronger, allowing to take a point for his team. Now, it's time for round 2. Today we are pitting the smartest members of each team against each other. Demetri Alexopoulos representing Miyagi-Fang, and Billy Cranston representing MMPR. Again, let's begin by analyzing their history. Demetri Alexopoulos was born in 2002. He was best friends with Eli Moskowitz. At computer camp, the two were known as the Binary Brothers, being that they were both great at coding. Demetri would try and join Cobra Kai on multiple occasions after his best friends would join, but after Johnny's less than ideal methods and John Kreese punching the guy in the face, Demetri would begin his training at Miyagi-Do instead. There, he would join Samantha LaRusso and Robbie Keane as the third Miyagi-Do student under Daniel LaRusso. His other best friend would quickly become Miguel Diaz. As the three joined up, he would become the cynical, sarcastic friend of the group. After joining Miyagi-Do, Demetri would become more and more confident, even being able to stand up to his best friend Hawk when he became a bully. He would later become a close friend of Samantha LaRusso once they were the only two of Daniel's original 3 students left, thanks to Robbie Keane ending up in juvie. He would later strangely be in a relationship with his bully, Yasmin. The two seemingly are in love, and again, as Demetri had stated in the first episode, she was a rich girl and he was the reject. Demetri would continue to prove essential to Cobra Kai's downfall on multiple occasions, being one of the people that finally helped unite Miyagi-Do and Eagle Fang. Once the main 6 kids realized and decided that Cobra Kai needed to fall, they may not have been able to pull it off without Demetri. Billy Cranston was born in Chicago, Illinois on April 1st. Billy was known to be the smartest of the original 6 Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Legacy Wars describes Billy as a sweet, ultra-intelligent nerd. He may not have been the strongest fighter, but don't underestimate his ability to utilize the tiniest flaw in his opponent. Out of the original 5 Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Billy was the only one to stay with the team up until Power Rangers Zeo. After becoming the original Blue Mighty Morphin Power Ranger, Billy would eventually graduate to becoming the Blue Ninjetti Ranger with the power of the wolf, under training with Ninjor. Although not confirmed, but I personally like to believe this is true, Billy is one of the assumed identities of the Phantom Ranger, a mysterious ranger who never revealed his identity during Power Rangers Turbo and in space. On arrival day, Billy was chosen by Zordon of Eltar for his wisdom and patience alongside his 4 best friends. Although Billy was filled with doubts on himself, even going as far to think that he should give up the powers to someone named Matthew Cook, a good friend of theirs who was a lot more confident than Billy. Billy decided it was best that he would continue, after proving his worth to the team with his intelligence. Later on in his life, he would be in a relationship with an alien named Cestria from the planet Aquitar. Billy would head there after he accidentally became older and older as he was rapidly aging due to a machine malfunction. Billy proved to be a pivotal member of Ranger history, being one of the main players in Lord Draken's defeat, and currently has one of the biggest roles in the Darkest Hour storyline. Even after Billy lost his own powers, he would stick around guiding his team during Power Rangers Zeo, taking a role much like Zordon and Alphas. Billy had set the standard for many Blue Rangers to come, being a smart and loyal mind till the end. So with all that being said, let's analyze who would win in a fight. But first, let's reiterate the rules. We're going to be analyzing the characters in 5 points of criteria: strength, speed, tricks, IQ, and experience. Whichever person has the edge over the other person will gain a factor in that point. And in the end, the fighter with the most points wins the game. The Rangers cannot use weapons or powers, and no Zords are allowed either. We're going to be analyzing the characters as a whole, so we're going to be pulling from all mainstream appearances of both the Miyagi-Fangs and Rangers. We're analyzing these characters as if they were in their prime. Not counting things like Miguel's back injury will only be used as a point of analyzation, not as a hindrance to his abilities. I will do my best to analyze the Power Ranger fights only when they are unmorphed, and I'll also try my best not to be biased to any one side. So with the rules set and fighters ready, let's begin round 2 and compare the 2 smartest members of each team.
It's time for molecular transmutation! Triceratops!
Now, where do we start?
Again, like we did with Jason and Miguel, let's start with strength. Let's take a look at Billy first. Billy is known to be a newer fighter compared to the other Power Rangers. He's great at using his hands, but not in a martial art way. He was trained primarily by his friends in a bunch of different ways. Billy started off the series a bit skinny and visibly he wasn't the strongest person around, but by the end of the series, visibly, we see he has become a strong ranger. Billy is shown to train alongside his fellow rangers quite a bit. He's also the only of the original 5 rangers to fight putties, Z-putties, Tengas, Cogs, and Thralls. Billy is shown to hold his own against both versions of putties, allowing him to build up a lot more strength. He was also able to fight against the Zeo Cogs unmorphed and with no powers. Billy was not used to fighting these things, and sadly he wasn't able to win the fight, but he still held his own. Billy was shown to build up strength by training, community service, and fighting many different enemies. Billy was shown to hold his own unmorphed against Goldar, just like Jason could. Billy was able to keep his machine safe for a bit against many putties and Goldar all at the same time. He's also been shown to be able to launch putties pretty high into the air without having the powers. Demetri doesn't have many moments of pure strength, but we do see that in the house fight, Demetri is a very underrated fighter. Demetri is able to hold off against multiple different attackers, helping Bert and Nate in the fight. Considering that the best fighters are all in really bad spots, Miguel is being dealt with by Kyler, Sam is running away, and the other Miyagi-Fangs are in trouble, and not to mention Hawk is on the other side. So Demetri has to be the main fighter still standing. While the others are being dealt with, Demetri has to take on the most fighters all at once. Once Hawk is able to free Demetri from a pretty bad spot, the two are basically able to clean sweep the remaining Cobras and free their friends. We also see that during the tournament, Demetri is one of the top 4 male competitors. Demetri, even though he's never been in a All Valley before, was able to make it to the semifinals alongside Robbie Keane, Eli Hawk Moskowitz, and Miguel Diaz, all characters who had been training way longer than he had. But still, all in all, Billy's still going to take the point from Demetri, due to the fact that Billy is fighting things made of metal, made of clay, and monsters that are a lot bigger than him. Demetri is going to lose this point, but let's move on to speed. Demetri is shown to be a slower fighter than Miguel, but a quick fighter nonetheless. Demetri is not the slowest, but Demetri's height and, quote, disproportionate limbs may affect Demetri's speed. We know that he's a reactive fighter. He's able to hold his own against multiple enemies, like when Kyler and the other Cobras attack him in the dojo fight. Demetri seems to be one of the best Miyagi-Do fighters, being able to anticipate fairly quickly, although it does take him some time to learn this ability. Demetri has heightened his senses thanks to Daniel's training in Soshio-Gekko and Kangekko, which allow him to use his environment around him, in the heat and the cold, to heighten his senses to look around and notice things that normally people wouldn't. Demetri is also shown to be quick when he uses the kamas during the All Valley. Although some of the scenes are slowed down, we see that he's able to flow with speed, demonstrating his abilities with the kamas. We do know that Demetri is also pretty fast, because he was able to outrun Hawk and all the other Cobra Kais during the mall fight. He may be a bit slower than, say, Robbie, but we do know that Demetri can't keep up with Robbie. Demetri is also shown that he's able to keep up with some of the fastest fighters like Hawk and Miguel. We also see that Demetri was able to get the jump on Johnny when training with him. Demetri is able to kick so fast that Johnny couldn't react in time. At the beginning of MMPR, Billy is shown to be the slowest and most clumsy fighter at first, much like Demetri. But as Billy grows as a ranger and a fighter, he becomes very quick. Billy is able to keep up with fighters like Jason and Zack. Thanks to his training with Jason and his friends, he becomes a very quick fighter, being able to switch between enemies quickly and easily. We also see Billy's not just fast in the physical sense, he's fast in the mental sense because he's a quick learner due to him learning under Jason. Billy fairly quickly learns what karate represents and how to protect himself. Billy shows us again when he switches bodies with Kimberly in the episode Switching Places. He is able to learn fairly quickly how to live and fight as Kimberly, although I think he was better at fighting as Kimberly than he was when he was trying to pretend to be Kimberly. Billy was also shown to be able to outrun the putties and even some of the other rangers in the episode Football Season. Speed is a bit harder to figure out with these two, but with the mental and physical speed both being factored in, it looks like this may be another point for Billy. Billy often uses the putties to injure other putties or to have them injure themselves. He often uses his own abilities if he can't avoid the physical confrontation with them. Billy also is known to use his flexibility to his advantage. Billy is able to flip, much like his fellow Rangers. He's able to flip both away and over his own enemies. He's definitely more athletic than compared to Demetri. Billy is usually a team fighter like we previously said, often teaming up with Zack. He's also often seen being able to use his own enemies' weaknesses against themselves. We see this especially when he starts fighting putty patrollers. The way Billy fights is reflective. but Billy definitely knows his great share of offense. Demetri is shown to be able to anticipate pretty well, although it did take him time to do so. Demetri was able to use his anticipation against Hawk. He also has techniques like the drum technique that would reflect Billy's offense. Demetri also practices kata, which would allow him to keep his mind steady and calm throughout the fight. Demetri is also taught to observe and react quickly. He's able to use many of the Miyagi-Do techniques to his advantage. Of course, Demetri has a great offense and can keep his distance during the fight. In the flagship dojo fight, we see that Demetri is one of the last 5 Miyagi-Fang fighters left protecting Anthony as the rest are being pulled away. Demetri does prefer to use Miyagi-Do, but he still has Eagle Fang training, which could lead to some great offense. Eagle Fang could easily take Billy by surprise, allowing an opening for Demetri to sneak in. Another technique that Demetri most likely is able to use, and we've kind of seen him use, is the wheel technique. While Robbie and Sam definitely needed a lot more practice to use this wheel technique, Demetri and Hawk are able to use the wheel technique basically perfectly during the house fight. Demetri is also shown to get close to his opponent and set them up for a strike, or he'll even take them to the ground. We see this actually pretty often. Demetri makes sure that Hawk is close and can't escape for the first time in the school fight. He's also shown to get pretty close to the last few Cobras in the house fight after Hawk saves him. So with this, Demetri definitely gets the tricks point for having a lot more defense. He's also got the element of surprise when it comes to offense. He can play to his strengths, keeping his distance with his disproportionate limbs and bringing his enemies in pretty close. So tricks goes to Demetri. Alright, last time we said that IQ doesn't just mean who's smarter, but it also means who's more creative. And this is going to be the battle of the wits. So let's look at their IQ. Let's start with Demetri. We know that Demetri is tech smart, being one half of the Binary Brothers. According to Hayden Schlossenberg, Demetri is the smartest character in Cobra Kai. We see that on the list, he is ranked higher than Hawk, Ali Mills, Terry Silver, and Devin Lee. He also uses this as a crucial part in the flagship dojo fight, being the person to post the video to Cobra Kai's YouTube channel. Demetri is also shown to use his environment to his advantage. He's able to use the darkness and shadows to avoid Hawk in the school fight. That is, until Hawk finds him. But even after Hawk finds him, Demetri still uses the trophy case behind Hawk to take him down. In the house fight, we see that Demetri is able to use the walls to help himself forward. Demetri is shown being able to not only protect both Bert and Nate for a short time, but he does use them to his advantage, utilizing their size to swing Bert around. He does the same with Hawk in the same fight, being able to tag team him without even thinking. In the flagship dojo fight, Demetri is again seen being able to quickly tag in with Hawk. Actor Gianni DiCenzo also mentioned in an interview that an idea he had was that Demetri was going to use the keyboard to smack Kyler down, but the scene wasn't used. On the other hand, let's get the obvious out of the way. Billy in intelligence is a lot smarter than Demetri. Billy was able to create the communicators and the rad bug on his own. For those of you who don't know, the rad bug was a car that could literally fly. Also, when he was turned into a child, he was able to restore his age back, but of course that did have its side effects, causing him to leave Aquitar. As he got older, it is possibly assumed that he is also the person that created the Master Morpher, but we also know he's the person that created Cloaking Tech, which is another one of the reasons why I think he's the Phantom Ranger, but you know what, that's just a different video. Billy is shown to be a very creative fighter, much like Demetri. He's shown being able to use the putties against themselves, more times than not. Billy has also been shown to use his jacket, much like Miguel did in the house fight, to his advantage. As Billy fights against the putties, he uses a shovel in the episode Reign of the Jellyfish. Again, in Lions and Blizzards, Billy is shown using the playground to gain the high ground on the putties. He uses everything he can to his environment, much like the other Rangers, and has to quickly think on how to avoid them. Another example is in the episode Rita's Seed of Evil. We see in this episode Billy using trees and a bucket to his fighting advantage. I know these things may seem small, but Billy's got to quickly think on his feet because he knows he's not the strongest fighter. So when it does come down to basic intelligence, I think Billy has to take the cake. But if we only analyze the creative fighting, then it's a lot more difficult. I think this one can be awarded to both in this situation. Demetri will get the point to more creative ways of fighting, using all the different techniques and things like that. But when it comes to basic intelligence and just smarts all around, Billy's gonna get the point. So we'll list this round as a tie. And that leads us to once again our final factor. The final factor will be experience. A lot of people may think that this is actually just a given, but I'm actually kind of unsure about this. So let's take a look. Demetri begins his training after the 2018 All-Valley tournament. He begins training around the age of 15. This is when he trains with Daniel LaRusso and is helped by both Samantha LaRusso and Robbie Keane. As a total, Demetri has trained for about maybe 1 year by the end of Season 5. Although, like the other Miyagi Fangs, we don't see him graduate belts, but it's assumed that Demetri is also considered a black belt by the team since he wears one in the tournament. Demetri has been trained in Miyagi-Do and Eagle Fang Karate. As for senseis, he's had a total of about 3 different senseis. He trained in Miyagi-Do both under Daniel LaRusso and Chosen Taguchi. And for a short period of time, like we previously mentioned, Demetri was trained by Johnny Lawrence in Eagle Fang Karate. So overall, Demetri has about 1 year of experience in karate, trained in 2 dojos, under 3 different senseis. Billy started his training at the age of about 14. Although Billy started his training in the first episode, he did drop out of Jason's karate class for a little while. Billy was trained primarily by Jason and Zach. He was also trained by Tommy once Tommy would join the team. Billy would eventually restart his training under Jason in the episode The Dark Warrior, which was 14 episodes after he dropped out. Billy would keep training and even trained under Trini's Uncle Howard, a scientist who was also a martial artist. We actually do see Billy graduate from a white belt to a yellow belt in the same episode. We also know that Billy was trained by Ninjor, a master ninja, and in the film, which isn't the same universe, but a fun fact was that he's technically trained by Dulcia in that movie. Billy also, like the other Rangers, was trained by Master Splinter in ninjutsu for a short period of time once he wasn't able to use his powers and had to give his morpher to Leonardo. Later on in the series, we see Billy continue to graduate in belts. We see in the episode Wizard for a Day, he has become a red belt. Finally, in Power Rangers Zeo, in the episode Mondo's Last Stand, we see that he's a first degree black belt. They have pretty similar timelines of experience, so who gets this point? I think this final point is going to be given to Billy. While Demetri might be one of Miyagi-Do's best fighters, if not the best fighter, he won't be able to beat Billy. Even with all the teachings from Miyagi-Do, Billy's strength, speed, and intelligence are going to give Demetri one hard time. Not to mention that Billy has actually gone through multiple years of karate, unlike Demetri. So overall, he's just got more experience. So with the addition of experience to Billy's list, I think that means that MMPR is scoring a second point. Team MMPR currently has 2 points against Team Miyagi Fangs. There are still 4 fights left, so let's see if the Miyagi Fangs can come out on top in the next episode.
It's time to uncage the heart.
Zach here, this is Kickin'.